A lot of our public schools in America are struggling to meet the academic needs of our students. What are some suggestions you have to increase the proficiency levels?
Hello, all. First off, I want to thank my wife for that wonderful question. It's a question that is actually on the minds of a lot of people. We see it in the news. It's a hot topic, especially here in North Carolina, where we live. As an educator and a person who's been in the field for 10 years, I've been down in the trenches, so I have an understanding of the topic from that aspect. But I also have two teenage boys and a 3 month old baby who will be in school not too long from now. I mean, time flies. So I can see that question from two different perspectives. How do we fix the public education system? How do we help our children to actually succeed better than they are right now? I guess we can look at it from different aspects. Um, the problems really started back with No Child Left Behind. Then we added on or changed the policies to now where we have standardized testing. And we're starting to see some states get away from that, like Virginia. Um, and we're seeing that their students are actually being a little bit more successive. So when we start with what we're actually teaching our kids, I do believe that nationwide we should have a curriculum. No matter where you live in the country, you should be learning the same thing as everybody else. But I do not believe we should have standardized testing. Right now, we are being forced to teach to a test. All that matters is test scores. Our bonuses, our principals' jobs, our assistant principals' jobs, everybody involved gets everything from how well their test scores come back. How many fours and fives did they get? Are jobs on the line if a teacher actually had a class that wasn't able to get the information and didn't pass the end of your test? But how much information is being lost because we're teaching the children how to fill in a bubble, how we are actually wording questions as we're teaching so that they know how to read a test properly and how to answer a test properly. All the test skills that we give them, everything that we're feeding them is geared towards one goal. Whereas before, when our generation was going through and generations before us, we were taught as individuals. We were taught to our capacity of whatever we could learn on any given subject. Yes, we had midterms and we had finals, but those all just worked into our overall grades, and our grade reflected the amount of knowledge that we gained throughout the school year. I can attest. I started off as a TA, moved on up into teaching, middle school, high school. These kids are missing a lot of the in between pieces. We're hitting them with the main facts, the main topic, the main goal of information, but we're not telling them how we get there, why we get there, what the nuts and bolts are of it. So I think the one main thing we have to do is we have to get rid of the standardized testing, go back to actually teaching people as individuals, and let them succeed at what they're able to do. We can't put success on just a test score. Another aspect that I think we have to look at as a society comes down to money. Now, again, I can look at this from an educator standpoint. Of course, I want a higher paycheck. But I can also look at it from a taxpayer standpoint of, is the education you're giving my child worth the amount of money that you're asking? Unfortunately, I think as a taxpayer, we have to take the back seat here. We need to go back to the way it was where our educators were some of the top paid employees and individuals in our country. Back when education was important, these people were our heroes. They were the people that had status within a community. It was at that point in time in our history that we were the most innovative. We had the best thinkers. We had the hardest workers. We had whatever it may be. because we had people at the top teaching down. Right now, we have, especially here in the state of North Carolina, where I believe the last statistic I saw, I believe that we were 48th in the country in teacher pay. Over the past 5 years, our state has been inundated with pamphlets and information from other states like Virginia, Tennessee, Ohio, and Texas saying, come on over here, we'll pay you for the education that you have and for the amount of time you spent in school and the work that you do, when North Carolina won't. And what we're seeing is we have organizations like Teach for America who are filling our schools with new teachers, which is fantastic that so many people are still wanting to be teachers. But the truth about it is that teachers within the first 5 years has the highest turnover rate of any profession in the country. And a lot of it has to do with the colleges don't really teach you what being in a classroom is like. The book can only show you so much. But also the amount of pay for the amount of hours that we actually work. Now, I've seen a lot of things on the internet from a lot of people who don't understand education. Teachers have summers off. They've got Thanksgiving break and Christmas break and spring break. You're right. But the truth is that most teachers are in school 2 weeks after the kids leave. They're in school 2 weeks before the kids come back. Over breaks, they're grading papers, writing lesson plans, buying supplies, which all come out of teachers' pockets. I believe the last article that I read about teaching here in North Carolina especially, our teachers cannot get mortgages to buy homes. That's how low our income or their income is. I personally don't know a single teacher that doesn't have a part-time job. Whether they have a family and kids, they have a second income of some kind, whether it's a husband, wife, significant other, whatever it may be. If they are single and they're educators, they have a part-time job or a second job on the side, and many of them have kids while they're doing this. While we are getting all these new teachers in, the quality of the education for our students is dropping. With experience comes knowledge. With knowledge comes the ability to teach it back to the kids. It's mastery. It's the same thing we're trying to get our kids to do in the classroom, which is to master the subject. Well, that comes with experience. That comes with practice. So a first-year teacher who, yes, they may have gone and passed the praxis, has not had the experience to teach in a classroom with 30 kids. Because that's another aspect of this that has to really change, is our teacher-to-student ratio. Because the state budgets are so tight on education, instead of having the 15-to-1 ratio that we may have had when we were growing up, most classrooms now have 30 to 40 kids in them for that one teacher. No TAs, just one teacher. So Charlie or John or Sally sitting in the back who is having difficulty, teacher may never get to that person. The person who has 50 million questions, well, they're not being answered because they have 180 days to get in a curriculum that's 190 days, all based off of a test, instead of individualizing it and keeping it to where the students can actually learn what they need to be able to learn at their pace. The state requires you get this entire curriculum in this amount of time. It's very difficult to do with the large numbers that we have within a classroom. So to sum this up, I've looked at this and I've talked with friends about it, coworkers, other family, individuals within other families, from both sides, as an educator and as a taxpayer. And I can arguably say that the first thing that we need to do is we have to get rid of the standardized testing. And we have to get back to the root of actually teaching our children the subjects so that they actually understand the whys, whats, and wheres of what they're learning so that they can actually retain it more instead of just say, memorize this answer, it's going to be on this test. We need to give better funding to the education system so that we can retain teachers that are of value and can actually give more experience and gain experience over the years and over the years and over the years, instead of always having new teachers because we can't afford the higher salaries. And the last point being that we need to drop the size of the classrooms, no longer have the 1:30 ratio or 1:40 ratio that we have now, and get back to having a 1:15 or a 1:20 ratio where all the children in the classroom can actually be helped. So I hope that gives you an idea of my thoughts on ways to help children be more successful within our education system. And I appreciate your time and I hope you all have a great night.